Is this thing on? I don't know. I can't tell. Should I even bother? No, you have to. You've got a journalistic duty, Ben. What is that? It's the police. Okay, that's good. Sure, that's good. Here's what we know so far. Let's start there. Superman foe Brainiac 13 lured the hero away from Earth so that its agent could contact United States President Lex Luthor, warning him that a threat was on its way to Earth. The president then reformed Project Suicide Squad in preparation for that danger, and they went up against Superman to test their abilities. The city of Metropolis was then taken into safekeeping by President Luthor's alien allies, consisting of some of Superman's greatest foes. Among those allies is the despot Darkseid, ruler of the fire-pitted planet Apocalypse, which now hangs over the empty city. The heroic Justice League confronted Darkseid, but once more, our heroic president stepped in, redirecting their energy to the front lines of whatever conflict this is that we're facing. Except for Superman, who he sent to the nation of Pokolistan, which was under attack by the mysterious general and his forces. Superman and the general's fight took them, off the planet, but they were so caught up in that fight that they missed something that streaked towards the Earth. And that thing, it hit Kansas, which is where I am now. I'm in Topeka, Kansas, and I don't know if that thing was a missile or an asteroid or some kind of metahuman, but whatever it was, it hit the city, and it is just bad. I've never seen anything like this. The buildings are ruins. They are blackened and cracked. There's shattered glass everywhere. I've seen multiple fires. The fire department is trying to keep up with them, but they're everywhere. There are also just dead bodies littering the ground. They're lying in the streets. They're in buildings, inside of cars. It is honestly one of the most horrifying things I've ever seen. If somehow you manage to find shelter in your cellar or something, then for now, please just stay there. It's safe. You'll be fine. Please. I'm going to keep reporting for as long as I can. I'm not sure how much battery I have left. My screen is cracked, but I'm going to try. I'm going to try to find, hang on, wait. I see there's something in the sky. What is that? It's too big to be a bird. God. Oh, is it a second attack? No, I don't think that's a plane. Oh my God, I think that's super. Hey, can you help me? My wife got hurt and I need to. Yeah, sure. I can help. I just need to, okay. I've got to go for now. I hope this keeps recording. I'm just going to leave this on. But, remember, my name is Ben, reporting for CBBD. That's episode 13.3 on your radio. Our World's at War, part 3. Stay safe. We're back in Superman's ongoing series, specifically issue 172, which was written by Jeff Loeb, penciled by Ed McGuiness, inked by Cam Smith, and it was gorgeously colored by Tanya and Rich Horie. Having left the fight with the general, Superman solemnly drops into the rainy, ruined city of Topeka, Kansas. Dead bodies are scattered in the streets. There are overturned cars. Buildings have collapsed. There are scattered fires that send smoke into a dusty, ash-filled sky. After taking in the devastation for a moment, Superman streaks away to the impact crater. He flies down and down, finally finding the massive armored form of Imperiex lying face first in a pool of lava. Despite hearing so much about Imperiex over the previous 4 issues of this crossover, this is the first time that we actually see the character. He is big. Like, Imperiex's torso is about the same size as Superman's entire body. Thick black armor with yellow lining and circular designs on it encases his whole body. A small tuft of red hair emerges from the back of Imperix's head. It makes me think of the decorative hair on a Roman soldier's helmet. Everything about Imperiex screams big, tough, and despite lying in super hot molten earth for some time, his body is still whole. Superman scans the body and detects no movement or heartbeat from it. Is Imperiex dead? Like, for real? A scream for help draws Superman away. After all, his responsibility is to help save the lives of those still living. As he flies away to help, Imperix's head lifts slightly, exposing gray skin within that armor, and one open, glowing red eye. On the surface, Superman scoops up a little boy who can't find his mother or father. He declares that he's scared, and there are tears in his eyes. Superman says that he's scared too, and there are tears in his eyes too. But if they're both scared, then maybe they can both be brave together. The kid says that he'll try, and Superman delivers him to a convoy of support forces that are moving through the city. We've got some fire trucks, ambulances, semi-trucks, and maybe some kind of military personnel carrier. The convoy pauses, because this is floopin' Superman headed at them, and they take custody of the kid. Superman asks if they know what went on here, but they're of no help. All that they know is that they're from Fort Riley, the power is down, and people are dead. They were hoping that he might know more, actually. Superman asks if they know anything about the area outside of Topeka, like, say, Smallville? Afraid not, the soldier replies. The president called and told them to come here, so they did. Seems like President Luthor is on top of things. Superman blinks at that idea, but then he zips into the air. The ground had just started to rumble, which caused a nearby building to shake, and its upper floor started to fall towards the convoy. But Superman pushes, forcing the building back into place, where he can then freeze it with his frost breath. The soldiers celebrate still being alive, but Superman turns, looking to the hole where Imperiex fell, because that is where the shaking is coming from. A large, 4-fingered hand reaches up over the lip of the crater, and Superman charges in. He isn't hesitating here. He streaks in, blasting Imperiex with heat vision, pushing him back into that hole. Imperiex went down once, and he is going to stay down this time. Imperiex isn't feeling terribly threatened. Did Superman not learn anything when they last met? Sure, Superman replies. He learned that Imperiex can be defeated. Superman then lays into him, punching with full force, using a spinning drill attack, all that kind of stuff. Imperiex charges back at the hero, slamming into him, zapping him with I-beams, and then he grabs Superman in his massive hands. And like Imperix's hands, like each one covers one of all of Superman's shoulders. He is like engulfed right here. But Superman doesn't care. His eyes glow red and he grits his teeth. When Imperiex set down on Earth, when he killed even one person, then he gave Superman no choice but to stop him. Superman sinks his fingers into Imperix's armor, and then he throws him away, exposing Imperix's chest. Then he hits him with heat vision, cold breath, and super strong punches. With Imperiex reeling from this, Superman then throws in some super speed, and now alternates his heat, cold, and his punches, always focusing on one spot in Imperix's chest. And all of that work results in one tiny crack. But that crack freaks Imperiex out. He cries out that Superman doesn't know what he's about to do. But Superman swings in anyway. His fist connects with that crack. And for a moment, the world goes black and white. A fountain of green energy erupts from the crater. And then it's just gone. One of the soldiers calls down for Superman, but there's no reply. Supergirl now glides down next to the soldier, asking him what happened here. And there's some guff given, as Supergirl went through some changes recently over in her own book, and she looks a bit different. They're interrupted by a battered, tired Superman who floats up out of the crater. He tells Supergirl to handle things here. He needs to check on some folk who live nearby. And then he's gone. But we follow him to a ruined farm. The storm that hangs over Topeka is not here. Small twinkling stars hang in the purple and pink night sky. Lying in the foreground of the panel is a mailbox, upon which is the family name Kent. This is the farm of Martha and John Kent, the adopted parents of Superman. Standing in the wreckage, Superman holds a black shirt box. He locks up, fighting his tears, and then he yells at his full strength, just a good old no! His body shakes as he begins to cry in earnest now. A gloved hand rests on his shoulder, and Superman spins, engulfing Supergirl in a hug. After a time, they separate, and Superman says something to her, but she, and we, can't hear it. Superman's shout was so loud that she's temporarily deafened. A few more moments pass, and eventually we can hear him. Quietly, he asks why he has all this power if he can't save the people who mean the most to him. This moment is given an entire page, allowing the reader to hang with it for as long as they need to process it. But eventually, Supergirl does speak. He hasn't found their bodies, right? Then maybe they weren't here. They might actually be fine. She tries to distract him by asking what's in that box that he's holding. Superman opens it and reveals a fresh costume inside. On it is a note, and it says, "In case of emergency, we love you." He found it buried under the house. Supergirl is impressed by the new costume. His mom makes those? She has to buy hers. The joke is ignored as Superman pulls the costume out of the box. Even when his folks aren't home, they're still taking care of him. A telepathic call from the Martian Manhunter suddenly erupts into Superman's mind. The JLA needs help, now. Superman flies through the ruins of his childhood home, he switches into the new costume, and then he streaks off to the rescue. In our next issue, JLA, Our World's at War. But let's do the artwork first, actually, as that's pretty standalone. And let me tell you, the artwork here is gorgeous. When I spoke about Superman 171 back in episode 13.1, I mentioned that Ed McGuiness has a very blocky style, and it is perfect for a character like Superman. His frame is thick and bulky, he looks strong and handsome and heroic. It's perfect in my mind. It's what I want Superman to look like. I actually think that McGuinness's cartoonier style almost captures just how ridiculous Superman is kind of perfectly. And I don't mean ridiculous in terms of his character or his personality, but how ridiculous he is as the ideal perfect superhero, and that's with all caps on those. There is a reason that Superman launched the superhero comic book here in the States, and it's because he fits that unrealistic, over-the-top ideal to a T. When artists make Superman look more human, it only serves to enhance how unrealistic everything about this character is to me. Thus, it makes it harder to accept stories about him. When he looks more cartoony, I'm much more accepting of it. I want to point out, once again, that I am not a Superman fan. I don't have a lot of personal history with the character, nor do I own any Superman comics outside of this crossover. I am one of those people who complain about how perfect he is and how that makes stories featuring him hard to follow or care about. But then I'm over here reading Our World's at War, and I get it. This works. It is perfectly built to threaten not Superman, but to threaten everything that Superman loves and that he has sworn to protect. But I'm getting off topic. McGuiness and Smith pair super, pun intended, well together. Cam Smith inks over McGuinness's artwork with a thick pen, but despite their larger-than-life renditions of everything, The artwork is also well shaded and very human looking. The book opens with 4 horizontal panels arranged vertically, zoomed in on a beaten up tiger stuffed animal, and then it pulls out, revealing the corpse of a little girl that the stuffed animal belonged to. And then it pulls out again, revealing the father of that girl, also dead, his hand wrapped around hers. And then it pulls out again, revealing Superman lowering himself into this scene of death and devastation. And as we pull out, we think, okay, wow, that's bad, like people died in whatever this attack was, but Superman is there now. He'll fix this. And then we pull out once more as we turn the page, and we get a 2-page landscape shot. Superman just hangs in the air on the left, looking out over the darkened city, and a broken "Welcome to Topeka" road sign occupies the center of the right page. There isn't something here for Superman to fix. The worst has already happened. And it's pretty terrible. McGuiness and Smith illustrate the destruction well, with heavy clouds in the sky, twisting plumes of fire, burned out buildings and collapsed walls, and small raindrops running off of Superman's cape. The coloring by Tanya and Rich Hourier is top-notch as well. Issue 171 really showcased what a stereotypical superhero comic book can look like. It's got lots of strange costumes and bright colors and energy effects, and everything's just very bright. But here, the backgrounds are all muted. They're grays and blacks, and rain falls in almost all of the panels. The Houriers even add rippling effects to where the raindrops hit the ground, making it look like rain is falling without adding in a ton of rain lines to indicate as much and muddy up the artwork. The art team here sells everything perfectly, whether that's the red and blue streak that Superman leaves behind as he rockets towards Imperiex, or the somber pall over a once beautiful city, or even the quiet loss of Superman's return to his now ruined childhood home. The whole book looks great, but there are standout individual moments, like when Superman launches his attack against Imperiex, and the whole panel, crooked, leaning towards the right, is nothing but reds, highlighting that Superman isn't just angry, he isn't just defensive, he is out for blood. He, and we as the audience, are seeing red. This happens again when he screams at the Kent farm. The entire panel goes red with rage. And rendering the one panel where Superman shatters Imperix's armor, releasing his energy and, as far as I can tell, killing him, rendering it all in just black and white is great. It makes it feel like the energy coming out of Imperiex is more than energy. It's otherworldly. It's so powerful and bright that it doesn't even register on the color spectrum. It also serves to highlight how morally compromising this moment for Superman, who generally doesn't kill his enemies, is. Because here, with Imperiex, there is almost no hesitation. There's no moral quandary about whether this is right or wrong. There is no gray here. It's black and white. And Imperiex needs to be stopped. To that end, the writing is great. If I had been buying this book monthly as it came out, I won't lie, I would probably be upset that so little happened. I could honestly sum this issue up with Superman finds out that Imperiex destroyed Topeka and maybe killed his parents, he kills Imperiex, and he is sad about his parents, and that would be it. That's not a lot of content in terms of things happening, especially having just broken down some of Chris Claremont's Fantastic Four run. But the flip side of that is that the emotional content here is massive. Superman here is, for the most part, quiet and reserved. I almost feel like the reporter part of him was showing through here, the part that needs to cover a war story, and he just observes everything. Find the cause of what did this, and then, as Superman, he stops it. But the cry for help from the kid reminds him, and us, that this isn't over. There are still people who need help. Superman's little conversation with the kid is so saccharine that I think I might have diabetes, but it is also totally on point for this character. He is scared. A city may have just died, and he could do nothing to stop it. What if that happens again? What if his parents are dead? How many others lost loved ones in this attack? The weight of this tragedy just bears down on Superman, and although he stands tall and he shoulders it, it is still there. He then unleashes his anger on Imperiex, and the ramp up here is great. As I said before, Superman, as a rule, doesn't kill his villains. He knows that he has to be better than them, because someone with as much power as he does has to answer to something, even if it is only his own conscience. And when he first attacks Imperiex, yes, he is going ham, but he is also fighting like a superhero. It isn't until Imperiex starts to gain the upper hand, when he starts to show that if he isn't stopped, then the dying will just continue, that Superman switches tactics and just kills him. Hard stop, period. Superman kills another sentient being. And in a post-9/11 world, we've honestly come to accept that from our superheroes. Captain America's role as a soldier in World War II, using a gun when needed, killing enemy combatants, was very candy-coated for a lot of his history. Even though Americans generally agree that fighting the Nazis was a moral and just cause, the comics of that age were aimed at a younger audience, and so villains were made more cartoony and over the top, and the violence was pared down. Almost all superheroes obeyed the rule not to kill their enemy. As time went on, and society changed, and anti-heroes like Venom or the Punisher or even Wolverine grew in popularity, they were still the outliers. Wolverine would kill, but only if he was forced to, his humanity struggling against the animal instincts inside of him and the programming that the Weapon X program installed in him. But in the world of comics post-9/11, heroes killing villains is much more the norm. I remember seeing page after page of the various Marvel heroes killing the alien Skrulls during the Secret Invasion storyline, and feeling like no one was bothered by it but me. The Skrulls were the enemy, and so they deserved to die. Worse, they were a hidden enemy that we didn't see coming, who were also religious extremists in their views. The Skrulls were a thinly veiled metaphor for the Islamic terrorists who launched those attacks upon America in 2001. In years past, various Marvel heroes have fought for alien races before, even defended the lives of alien races who would have killed them if they had the chance. And they did it because it was the right thing to do. But in a world where threats can come from anywhere, and a massive skyscraper was destroyed, it was a lot harder to justify destroying large sections of New York City in a comic book storyline without considering the real-world ramifications of those actions. And it also meant the heroization of those who fought back, the soldiers who went to the Middle East to protect America. And if our heroes are soldiers, and our soldiers can kill, then maybe our superheroes, in an extreme enough situation, should be able to kill too. And sure, while Superman isn't running around murdering folks, Hawkeye tried to assassinate Norman Osborn several times, Tigra brutalized the Hood after he had her beaten, and if you watch the MCU movies, the heroes there kill fairly frequently. We're just okay with that kind of thing now, but before September 11th, 2001, a character like Superman killing an enemy was a big deal. This particular issue of Superman, by the way, is dated as being published in September of 2001. I don't think that there was any intention of mirroring the destruction wrought on the 11th in this book. Keep in mind, this storyline would have been plotted out months in advance and drawn probably 2 or 3 months before actual publication. This is some serendipitous crap right here, but it is important serendipitous crap, and it is not lost on me that this episode is dropping only a week after the actual anniversary of 9/11. There are a lot of my feelings on 9/11 that have been dredged up by this issue. The somber tone, the impending war, the civilian casualties. But those feelings, while having nothing to do with this particular comic otherwise, are the perfect set of feelings to have brought up. The creators of this comic, most specifically Jeff Loeb, stated that they wanted this to feel like a war story. Not a comic book fight or an over-the-top crossover to boost sales and for everyone to have a good time, but a tragic, heavy, real war story that looks at the actions that war demands of us and the personal costs that we, as the people fighting that war, must pay in order to win it. And while our story stand-in is a superpowered alien wearing his shorts on the outside, this feels like war to me. Perhaps the only things that I dislike in this issue are some of the story elements surrounding Imperiex and Supergirl. If Imperiex falling onto Topeka was an attack, well, it sure doesn't feel like an attack. He's found face down in a pit of lava, either recovering from the fall or playing dead in order to fool Superman, which he does at least come conscious after Superman leaves. And that doesn't really feel like a guy triumphantly launching his first strike against Earth. That feels like someone who got punched in the depths of space and Earth just happened to be in the way of his trajectory. So despite everything that we've seen indicating that a war is coming, this doesn't really feel like the opening salvo in a war. Plus, Superman just killed Imperiex. We have won the war, let's all go home, yeah? Except that at the end, in which the JLA calls for Superman's help, we're clearly shown that this isn't over. And we've still got 6 or 7 issues of crossover to cover, so yeah, this is definitely not finished. And it doesn't feel done, but it should be done, right? Imperiex is dead, yes? So that's weird to me. From a narrative standpoint, Supergirl is someone that Superman trusts, someone that he can openly share his grief and concerns with. The rest of Superman's classic supporting cast is elsewhere, having either been safely abducted from Metropolis, or they're a superhero, meaning that they either have their own ish to deal with, or they're gonna end up involved in this too. But Supergirl is fast enough to reach him and still appear in her own ongoing series, and the location of her book, which I think is a city called Leesburg, was already attacked in this war. She's seen the devastation too, and when she hears about the attack on Kansas, and thus vicariously the loss that Superman might be going through, she races off to comfort him. That all works fine, and I do think that Loeb captures the kind of snarky tone that author Peter David would have had for the Supergirl book. But the strange thing here is that everyone seems to comment on how different Supergirl is. And she is different. There are some relatively big changes to her character that happened not too long before this moment in her own ongoing series. But as someone who hasn't read those issues, it goes completely over my head. If no one said anything about it, I would just assume that this is what Supergirl normally looks like, and I would leave it at that. But here, I'm just a bit confused as to what changed, and that distracts me a bit from the main narrative. It is a good sign of the shared continuity of the Superman books, though, so props to Loeb for paying attention to the other books that aren't his and honoring their ongoing storylines. In a book this good, this weirdness regarding Supergirl is such an afterthought. And honestly, I've been enjoying Peter David's Young Justice series so much in my free time that I've been considering collecting his Supergirl, but we'll see on that. And anyways, the Imperiex thing doesn't bother me too much because this is a back issue, and I have the next issue in the chronology, and so we don't have to wait for answers. We just get to read the next book! That's amazing! Oh, I love back issues. There are 11 one-shot comics published as part of the Our Worlds at War event. To the best of my knowledge, the only one that's going to be important to our overall understanding of the crossover, as of yet, I haven't seen any of the others referenced, so we ain't going to talk about them. Please remember, I'm putting this crossover together so that I can insert it into my Young Justice collection. I want this as a framework to contextualize the events that those heroes go through. This is not a full exploration of the breadth and depths of this war. But if you want to know more about how, Batman or the Justice Society deal with our world at war, then those book exists, and you are more than free to explore them. Find your local comic shop and check them out today, except for probably the Harley Quinn one, because that's like $50. The one-shot that we're going to be talking about is JLA, Our Worlds at War, and thankfully, it was written by Superman author Jeff Loeb, it was penciled by Ron Garney, inked by Rags Morales, and was colored by Tanya and Rich Hourier. Ooh, Ooh, this book is gonna look good. I like this creative team. So, back in Action Comics 780, President Luthor told the Justice League that he had a use for them, while Superman got to go fight the General. The JLA had been ordered to defend Earth from Imperiex, and while they fought valiantly, they got their no swearing kicked. The comic actually opens on the beaten, mangled form of the Martian Manhunter. Like, one of his eyes has been pulled from its socket, but it's still attached. It's just floating in the void of space. Despite this, the Manhunter is still acting as a telepathic radio between the League members, allowing them to communicate in vacuum. Green Lantern Kyle Rayner shields the Manhunter with his emerald energy, allowing the Flash to run past. He comments that the Alien Alliance might have taken a hit, but the League will fight on. Then he's punched by Imperiex, who Plastic Man is struggling to restrain. In the background, a third Imperiex exists. And so whatever Imperiex is, he clearly exists in multiples. Imperiex 2 comments that they cannot stop the hollowing, capital H, resistance is pointless, y'all know the deal. He flexes his arms and unleashes a burst of purple energy, blasting the two heroes away from him. Over by Imperiex 3, Aquaman and Wonder Woman fight their own battle. Wonder Woman is dressed in golden battle armor and is armed with an axe, but Aquaman is just fighting with his fists. Wonder Woman encourages her friend to keep fighting, and Aquaman assures her that he will, but he really wants to know where Batman and Superman are. Cut to Gotham City, where Batman struggles to save a group of civilians trapped beneath some falling debris. In radio contact with the Information Master Oracle, Batman asks her to summon the Bat family, meaning Nightwing, Robin, even Huntress, because he's going to need the help. Gotham City needs him today. The JLA are going to have to fight without him. Then we move to Superman, who rockets away from the Kent's farm just outside of Smallville, Kansas. Superman rips through the atmosphere so quickly, the air around him burns. He telepathically tells the Manhunter to let the League know that he's coming, a beacon of hope. He streaks up to Imperiex 3, who had grabbed Aquaman. Superman grabs Aquaman and Imperiex 3's arm, tearing it off while using his heat vision to cauterize the wound. For a moment, Superman is confused as to why there's another Imperiex, and thank you, so am I, but seeing the cosmic foe wounded encourages Wonder Woman. She uses her shield, and I didn't know that she had a shield on her. That was not established in the artwork earlier, but okay, sure. She uses her shield's edge to fracture Imperix's armor. Superman tries to rush in, but before he can pull Wonder Woman out of the danger zone, Imperiex 3 detonates. Superman approaches Wonder Woman's unconscious body, Aquaman right behind him. Superman can't hear a heartbeat. Diana needs medical attention, now. Aquaman says that they all need medical attention, and for the first time, Superman looks at the rest of the JLA. They float in the vacuum of space, unconscious and beaten. From a nearby ship, Maxima and Starfire fly to the men, offering to help get the wounded to their medical ships. Superman volunteers to take Wonder Woman in, given how hurt she is, and then he rushes off. The ladies tell Aquaman that an Imperiex probe, which is what the Alliance forces are calling these Imperiex that they're fighting, has hit outside of Atlantis. Aquaman tells them that Earth is 3/4 water, so if Atlantis falls to Imperiex, the rest of the planet won't be far behind. He tells them to send Superman along as soon as they can, and then he rushes back to his kingdom. On the Paradox ship, that's Paradocs, as in para-human, and doc as in doctor, we open on Wonder Woman's mother, Hippolyta. She says that she should be with the JSA, off in their own one-shot, but when she heard about her daughter, she came here immediately. As the camera moves in on her, she asks, "How is Diana?" Wrapped in Superman's cloak, Diana's arm hangs limply as Superman gently tells Hippolyta that she needs her mother's help. On Earth, we move to the White House War Room. A 3D holographic representation of Earth hangs in the center of the room, the impact points of Imperiex probes mapped upon it. General Rock informs President Luthor, and us, about the JLA's defeat in turning away just one probe. 6 of those probes have targeted and or attacked cities on Earth. He begins to list those cities, including Topeka and Atlantis, but Luthor cuts him off. He knows that already. He wants to know what he doesn't know. And this throws General Rock, as it is the latest intel from NORAD. This is Luthor tipping his hand that he is an outside source of intelligence, meaning Brainiac 13. Loeb did something similar with the soldiers in Superman 172. They got to Topeka as fast as they did because Luthor knew that Topeka was going to get attacked. This adds a much more sinister tone to Luthor's actions in this war, but we'll get to more of that later. A metallic green man with an old-school smoking pipe picks up the briefing next. This is Dr. Magnus, and he states that Imperiex is not a singular entity, but is instead some kind of collective working towards a common goal, each part referring to itself as Imperiex. Furthermore, the cities attacked are not random. They are, according to him, positioned directly dead center in each of the 7 continents. They are exactly where you would want them to be if you were planning on pulling the planet apart. Alright, Luthor asks who he has left since the JLA are down. General Rock lists off the Justice Society, the Titans, Young Justice. I mean, come on, Mr. President, who do you want? Luthor points at the General, and I'm pointing at you, dear listener. He wants them all. Sounds like a good time to go buy some one-shot tie-ins, if you ask me. We then bounce around the globe for 2 pages to see how those other forces fare. And it ain't good. Then we return to the Paradox, where Clark checks in on his Justice League pals. Green Lantern is badly beaten, but is conscious and able to talk. The Flash is still out cold, his face a swollen mess. Superman's wife, Lois, spots him and she rushes over for a hug. She asks if he's okay, calling him Smallville, her personal nickname for him. Superman's mind goes back home for just a split second. He tries to tell her something. Maybe it's how torn up he feels, maybe it's about his fears regarding his parents. But we don't know because Maxima interrupts. Atlantis is under attack, and Aquaman needs backup now. Down in the depths of the sea, Aquaman is prepped for combat. Golden armor protects him, and his attendants offer up Neptune's trident to him. Aquaman parts with his former sidekick, Tempest, who should save Atlantis if Aquaman fails. Then he parts with his love, Mera. Rushing through the water with ease, Aquaman charges at Imperiex, who is now armed with a sword and a shield here, the most powerful of weapons, so why not? And while I was making a Joe Crap reference there, Aquaman does pretty well in the fight. He parries, he blocks, he actually breaks Imperiex's sword. Then he thrusts the trident forward, burying it in Imperiex's chest. And Imperiex detonates. Superman arrives just in time to watch it happen. The armor that Aquaman was wearing floats in the water afterwards, lifeless. His left hand is missing, his right hand and his face are obscured by bubbles. Superman calls out to him, but before anything happens, the waters start to churn, and then they turn red. Suddenly, miles of water just disappear, leaving Superman standing alone in a steaming, empty line of seabed like Moses parting the Red Sea, but it's the Atlantic Ocean. This divide stretches to the horizon. Superman shouts at the setting red sun. If Imperiex wanted a war, then Superman will give him one. The ending for this one-shot is kinda off-putting for me. 'Cause here's the thing, as big as this event is, it is a Superman event. It is not a Justice League event, it's not an overall DC event that's going to change everything forever. It's just a Superman event. So killing off Aquaman or the concept of Atlantis here was never something that was going to stick. You can't do that kind of move in comic book storytelling, it's just not done. So while Loeb tries to sell us on the idea that Aquaman is dead and that Atlantis has been destroyed, it also obviously wasn't. The timing is all off. I mean, we saw Imperiex explode, we saw the body of Aquaman, and then something else happened. But then, Superman reacts to this happening as if the death of Imperiex caused the destruction of Atlantis. So what we've been shown, artistically, doesn't match up with what we are being shown in the actual story. Research tells me that the fate of Aquaman and Atlantis ends up being explored in a Justice League story arc called The Obsidian Age. And I have to say, it sounds kinda cool. I'm tempted to pick it up. But obviously, Loeb is going to keep running with the idea that Aquaman is dead, and that is going to be a major motivating factor for Superman. Yes, Topeka may have been destroyed, but none of those people are honestly close to Superman. He mourns their loss, and it hurts, but not to the core of his being. Potentially losing his parents really shook up Superman. That's the kind of personal loss that would devastate him on a personal level. But losing Aquaman is the closest to that idea that we're going to get right now. Aquaman wasn't a bystander or a normal human being victim. He was a colleague. He was a friend. He was a fellow member of the Justice League. And remember, the rest of the league is down. It's one thing to have the team beaten and maybe they can recover and come up with a plan and then win the day. It is another thing to have one of them die. There is a relatively easy fix for this botched delivery, and that's just to have Superman arrive too late. Loeb and artist Ron Garney could have had Superman flying through the atmosphere, Aquaman stabs Imperiex, we cut back to Superman who witnesses the black and white explosion and he shouts, "No!" And then we get to see a huge portion of the ocean missing, and then Atlantis and Aquaman are just gone. That's still a little suspicious, because we saw that Imperiex explode into Topeka and the rest of the city was still there. There's no way that Imperiex exploding could have destroyed all of Atlantis. That just doesn't make sense. But keeping the event from happening right in front of us prevents us from at least suspecting that something is wrong, so it allows Loeb's emotional reaction to ring true while still continuing on with Aquaman's story. The rest of the one-shot kind of has the same problem as our last issue. There isn't a lot of story to chew on. Again, I would be a bit annoyed if I was buying this live, especially for an additional $1.25. This one-shot was originally $3.50, and it is about 1/3 longer than the rest of the Superman books, so there is an uptick of overall pages. So yeah, we are paying more money, but we're also getting more pages, even if we aren't really getting told a lot more story. So I still feel like there's a trade-off here, but it's kind of an okay one. And to be fair, Ron Garney's artwork is a standout in this issue. As with Ed McGuinness in Superman, Garney is given lots of space to make big moments feel big. Loeb knows that the Justice League is a force that can normally turn back in alien invasion. They're typically the front line. So by having them start this issue defeated, we're not only shown how powerful Imperiex is and how deadly of a threat they are, but we keep our narrative focus clean. Again, this isn't a Justice League story, so how they lost isn't really important. It's what their loss does to Superman that is important, and so we stay focused here. Artistically, Ron Garney, Rags Morales, and the Houriers do a great job with this issue. While part of me is so annoyed that so little overall happened, what did happen looked so good that it's kinda hard to complain about it. If the Justice League is going to be defeated, then it needs to be a big moment, and giving that story element a ton of big pages really helps to sell that idea. Garney has a style that manages to be both realistic and cartoony at the same time. It's this wonderful balance for the artistic interpretation. His Superman, and that Aquaman for that matter, are large and muscular, but they're defined fairly realistically with lots of shadows on them, something that a cartoonier artist might skip. The Houriers also go with a slightly darker color palette in this issue than the one they used in Superman 172. Everything is still colored properly, don't get me wrong, but there's less highlights on all of it, and there's maybe a darker shade over top. The look of this issue is less that of a superhero slugfest, which it honestly is, and it's more of a dramatic story of loss and the costs of battle. It is a very subtle change, and the colors are still rich and vibrant, but there is a darker tone to this issue than to the last. I didn't mention it in either issue, but Loeb has speeches running in the background of both of these particular comics. Superman 172 has President Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, while the JLA one-shot has President Roosevelt's Pearl Harbor speech. I'm torn on these because, on the one hand, I think that they're kind of distracting as I'm reading, and they aren't really tied into the specific moment of each issue. However, they do lend a real sense of gravitas to their particular issue, a kind of somber mourning, as they draw from us our feelings regarding the tragic losses of both the Civil War and the attack on Pearl Harbor. And then, while they might not fit the specific moments going on in each story, they do fit the overall themes of Our Worlds at War pretty well. The Gettysburg Address speaks to the losses of the Civil War, yes, but also to the losses made at the Battle of Gettysburg, about how brave and noble a sacrifice those lives were, having been given up in the belief that all lives are created equal, and that the living people who stand there now must continue that fight, and to live in order to advance that cause. The people of Topeka were slaughtered in this comic, their lives given up simply because they were alive. And for Superman to give in to his grief over potentially losing his family would only hurt America, and by extension, the world, because all life on Earth is under attack here. That's far worse. Yes, hundreds, maybe thousands of people died that day, but Superman has to keep fighting. Having finished examining the sudden and surprise attack on Earth that happened at Topeka, Loeb follows that up with Roosevelt's speech, which addresses a sudden and surprise attack on America that happened at Pearl Harbor. In both cases, we go from being involved in a war to some degree to being invested in that war. Imperiex has been in space doing whatever it is that Imperiex does, and Earth has been content to ignore, or at least remain ignorant of, that particular threat. But now, that threat is on our doorstep, and we have to fight back. And in the world of comic books, and this story in particular, that means Superman has to keep fighting. This loss is echoed in the loss of Atlantis and Aquaman, where the overall threat of Imperiex hits Superman too close, and now he is ready to fight this battle in earnest. But being a warrior isn't the same thing as being a soldier in a war, and that's something that Superman is going to learn over our next few issues. Next week, President Luthor unleashes one of Superman's deadliest foes against Imperiex. After all, if something is dangerous to Superman, then it has to be dangerous to Imperiex. But can Superman ally with a creature that once killed him? The Adventures of Superman and Doomsday. Issue 35 is our first issue next week, followed up by Superman battling the concept of death itself for the soul of a friend in Superman Man of Steel, issue 36. Join me next week for Comic Book Breakdown episode 13.4, Our Worlds at War, Part 4. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.